Good morning, this is Tamara Sweeney from Love Dominates. Today, this video is going to be very, very difficult. If you are in the court system, then you'll understand everything that I'm saying. If you have not been targeted by our system or our government, then you might not understand, but I hope you take me seriously. Okay, I am going to speak about how our family court system takes our children for profit. So family court I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about guardianship. I'm going to talk about APS, CPS. APS is Adult Protective Services. CPS is Child Protective Services. Services that normal human beings would think that they would actually help us. They don't. They do the complete opposite, because our children and the elderly are targets for the government for profit. So in other words, as somebody else had stated it, human beings are for profit in our system, and they abuse us, and I mean abuse us. So let me start with parental alienation. You know, you have a typical marriage, you want to get a divorce. Nothing wrong with getting a divorce, but the judges have an incentive to destroy your family. The lawyers have an incentive to keep your family fighting and keep you apart. They have incentives to put dollar amounts on your children. Child support. It's awful. CPS. Well, let me explain. What parental alienation is when one parent denigrates, puts down, belittles another parent to the point of they are erased from that family. Completely erased. I am a mother of 4. I have been completely erased from my children for November will be 8 years. For no reason at all. And I raised them up until they were 17. My oldest up until 17. So parental alienation, the duress, the abuse that one takes, the targeted parent, that abuse is so extreme that people don't believe it. I mean, the courts harassing you with false allegations, throwing you into court, putting the fear of incarceration, you know, all these false charges on you is an awful way to live. America is not a free country. If you go to get a divorce, this is not a free country. You are constantly targeted by the judges, the lawyers, you know, the caseworkers, therapists. It is unbelievable, and it's all about money. So let me tie in, I guess, family court and divorce, and I'm going to tie in elderly care. Or let me put it this way. It's called APS, Adult Protective Services, which they don't protect the elderly at all. It is another scam where they have someone come in, put false allegations on you. They take the elderly person, put them into a home. They abuse that person. They beat them. They rape them. They steal their money. They steal their assets. And they block family members from coming to visit them. And if you are allowed to visit them, you have to pay to visit your parent. Now, how insane is that? You have to pay to go see your mom or your dad in a home. And your mom, on the other end, has to pay the home so that you can come and see. So, I'm giving you examples of what really happens. And this is... So, in other words, your children are a target, and the elderly are a target. Because they're two people. The children are innocent, And if the parent is not knowledgeable and is not aware of our system, there's no way they can protect that child. And having CPS come in, which is Children Protective Services or Children Youth Services, that's all a scam. Because the caseworkers make incentives to throw that child into a mental home, to throw the child into jail. There's no love here whatsoever. There's no best interest of the child or the elderly people. None. It's all about greed and money, and it blows my mind. So I'm really going to get deep here with this. There's so many scams that the government does. So going back to my last statement, Child Protective Services is Child Predator Services because they also beat, rape, drug your child. Adult Protective Services is Adult Predator Services because these guardianships come in, steal your assets, steal your money. They beat, rape, and isolate. They isolate that parent from seeing their children. So it's parental alienation when you get in your adult years because the system is controlling us and they control us like little lab rats. So I am making people aware of this, and I pray this video goes around because people have to understand. There is a lot of other scams, and I'm not going to get into them all, but do a lot of research on nutrition, do a lot of research on American food, do a lot of research on pharmaceuticals, the pharma companies, do a lot of research on HOA scams. It does not end. It's all about money. So, my suggestion to everyone is, if I was around my kids right now, I would absolutely tell them never to get married. Never to have that piece of paper going into our court system. Number two, if we have not stopped the system yet, I would tell my children not to have children. Because your children are $1 million ticket to our criminals in our system. If you decide to have children, I would do it privately in your own home. I would have a, what do you call that? Like a helper, a mother that would come in and help you give birth and not have a birth certificate for your child. Because a birth certificate is just, you're just a number. And now the courts can control you. Once you have a birth certificate in the United States, once you have a marriage license, passport, driver's license, any kind of documentation through our government, now you are a target. And if you don't realize this, please, please, please do your research. There is so many people screaming out for help because our children are being kidnapped and the elderly are being kidnapped. It's abduction into these homes, and then they do whatever they want. They drug the elderly. They give them drugs so they can't talk anymore and tell people what's actually going on behind closed doors. For me not to be able to see my mom or dad for, call it, years, I mean, how is that helping the elderly? The elderly, everybody thrives on love. Like I stated before, love is the ultimate power. All as we need is love. I'm not going to judge you in what you're doing. We should be able to live for free underneath our own roof the way we want, as long as we are not beating, raping, abusing our children or abusing the elderly. So, my suggestion, and this is, I would love to do this, but this is probably going to kill me. But I'm tired of living in fear. I'm tired of moving 12, 15 times because I'm afraid the government's going to take my dad, our money, his assets. They've already taken my house. They've taken my sister's house. They've taken my kids. They've taken my sister's kids. I mean, it is nonstop. Nonstop. So my suggestion is this year, nobody pay taxes. Nobody pay their taxes this year. And I'm going to send this video right to Trump. Nobody pay taxes until family court, lower courts is abolished, all the way up to Superior Court. Because anyone that wears a robe abuses their power. Judges have immunity. Lawyers have immunity. They have no fear because they're never held accountable for their actions. So there is 22 million people affected in the United States by parental alienation. I need those 22 million not to pay your taxes this year. Because those taxes that you do pay go right back into the hands of the criminals, the pedophiles. So if that's where you want your money to go, then go ahead and pay it. But I say we start by not paying our taxes. Everyone puts a hold on it. Everyone that's having problems with HOA, which is Homeowners Association, because that's a big scandal. The Catholic Church obviously is a big scandal. And I believe in God 100%. But I do not approve of what they're doing to innocent children. Number 3, parental alienation in the family courts. CPS and what they do to our children and put them in foster care into the hands of a pedophile, a drug addict, etc. They do that on purpose. And of course our elderly and APS. Stop this business of ours in America. Trump, I need you to, as you call it, drain the swamp. We need to start with draining these judges. Hit Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, because all of them should be arrested and held accountable for intentionally putting harm to our children and to our elderly. It has to stop. So please, don't pay your taxes today. Don't pay your taxes this year, I mean. Everyone hold off. And let's put a hold on our government and bring it back to we the people. And we're serious. We the people have human rights. And we are not going to be disrespected. We need to bring in equality. We need to bring in respect. Honor. We need to bring in God's law. Thank you for listening. Love dominates. Choose love over hate in everything you do. Choose compassion over judgment. And let's stop these criminals. Because I know God above does not want this to happen to our children or the elderly. Amen.